Hello, wonderful. It is Sarah K Ramsey, and I am here with Amy Roeder, who is a licensed associate counselor in New Jersey. She's also a mindset and dating coach for women who are 30 to 45 years old. And last time we chatted, we talked about success, like sitting with uncomfortable feelings. And this time we're going to tell ourselves more about lies to finding love. So tell us a bit, Amy, you talked about successful single female. Is that your website and your Instagram?
Yeah. So our Instagram handle is @successfulsinglefemale. So it's an online program for women 30 to 45. It's a 12-week program. The amount of real coaching from us as opposed to the program, we have different tiers depending on what you want. But it shows women soup to nuts, basically how to go and get back out there and make sure that you're being authentic and true to yourself so that you actually find the right person for you as opposed to just finding a person.
And that's a really important distinction. Within the dating coach space, there's some people living in what I would say in integrity and some people playing the numbers game, right? Could I play matchmaker and get you a date and then say, my success rate is 98%? Absolutely. Would that be living in authenticity or would that be a good long-term strategy? Probably not. Because, 5 years down the road, they get divorced and then it's like, he was the worst person and he was sleeping with prostitutes and but I got you a husband, right?
So when people ask us, they ask us if we're matchmakers, and I can't get in your head and tell you who's right for you, but I can help you through what's going on when you're out there dating and help you, distinguish what things are coming up for you through conversation and coaching to see whether or not the person that you're bringing in is actually someone who, for me, I always feel like whoever's right for us is the one who really loves us for who we are, right? Mm-hmm. It's not conditional, and because you're going to grow with your partner anyway. You're not going to be the same person if this is a long-term relationship that you're looking for in 20 years from now.
Yeah.
So are you guys clicking? Of course. Do you have alignment in what your values are? Is important. Again, your values can somewhat change, but also, is this a relationship that can grow, that has room to grow? And we are fed so many lines and lies as women, as far as like, you got to lock down a guy by such and such an age so you can have children and blah, blah, blah. And it's supposed to look this way and he's supposed to act this way, that it gets very loud. And so many women end up with somebody who is not right for them just so they can end up with somebody, they were too quick.
Yes. You end up with someone who's not right for them.
Yeah. So I always say
they can end up with somebody. Yeah.
Right. I always say you can pretend to be somebody else to get a guy, because it's what we're taught to do, right? You're supposed to act a certain way. You're supposed to look a certain way. You're supposed to be a certain shape. You're supposed to like not ask too many questions or whatever. You're supposed to be quiet. Like this is where it all came from, because I'm loud and proud, like I'm out there. I'm not quiet and small and, submissive. That's not how I am as a person. Mm-hmm. So I need to find someone who loves that. Right. So I always say you can pretend to be someone that you're not and get a guy, but he's going to be the wrong guy. Mm-hmm. And someday that mask is going to come off and he's going to be like, who the heck is this? And can you really blame him for being annoyed? You just pretended you were somebody else.
Well, I mean, and flip that, right? Like no one is like, I dated this guy and he pretended to be this way. And then 2 years into marriage, he was a totally different person.
And I'm stoked about it. Yeah. No one's
no. Or you hire somebody, they appeared to be this on their resume. And then, it's all the same. Like we don't like dishonesty. So don't be that. And you have to know yourself to grow yourself. And you have to know yourself so you don't bring the representative. My husband and I, we've been together 6 years, I think 5 years. We've been married for 2. I know that. And then we dated at some point. I don't remember. But that process of like, there's been very little surprises. Right. There's been very few like, what? I had no idea.
Absolutely.
Whatever. And what a gift.
Yes.
What a gift.
So that is the goal. But again, what we were talking about in the last podcast, but we get hurt and stung along the way. And we get taught as women that the prize at the end of the day is being not even like getting a guy. The prize at the end of the day is being gotten by a guy, right? Yeah. We're supposed to sit on the side and be quiet, and he's supposed to see us across the room and come up to us and court us. And we're just told all these messages. And inevitably, through trials, we get hurt. It tends to, like, something doesn't work out, a relationship doesn't work out. There's pain in this journey. And with that, what we work with our clients is especially when you're in like the 30 to 45 and really above space, when like you're now depending on where you are in the country, right? Like, so New York 30 is like, you're still 21.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
So that's why we made it that gap. But really, like, when you're in the space where like your friend, it seems like all your friends are getting married, all your friends are having babies, and like you're not doing that, there are a lot of lies that come up to explain why that's not happening. And really, all of those lies are a protection to make sure that you don't feel bad and you don't get hurt.
Amy, so you're telling me there's no like secret, like 3-sentence affirmation that you can like, just automatically like walk in and like find the right guy first time and it's all going to work out. And there's no way you don't even have to be vulnerable. Like, you don't even have, and that's what they'll say. We talked a little about the red flag. Okay. What's, 3 red flags I can watch for, so I never end up in another toxic relationship. And I was like, you need to have wisdom.
Right.
Integrity to yourself and wisdom to be able to filter through. Because toxic people are not just in romantic relationships, right? They're in coworkers. They're in protecting your child from the wrong ball coach. It's going to end up molesting them. Like, these are huge skills to learn that protect you or don't. And we kind of give really bad language or lingo to the woman who is in a toxic relationship. And then we really ignore all the times we've been conned.
Absolutely.
Financially or in a business deal or whatever. And so it's just wisdom. It's wisdom to keep yourself safe and wisdom to protect yourself. And there is no path to love without going through the path of vulnerability.
Absolutely. 100%. So, and I always say too, like with my clients who want that like quick, like checkbox, what do I need to do? And then I'll do it. If there really was, we would be bored out of our minds. Like, part of the amazing, one amazing aspect, or I think really the biggest one of the human condition, although it brings pain, is this growth, is this learning to sit with yourself and trust yourself and trust the process enough to kind of quiet and really ask yourself these questions along the way. I would say though, that there is one checkbox that I feel like I would stand behind.
Okay.
And that is anything. And if someone wants to challenge me on this, like, I would love to have that conversation, because maybe I stand by it. But anything that tells you that it's impossible to get what you want is a lie. When it comes to love.
Do you explain? Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
When it comes to love. Like, of course, like, if you, I would say, like, if you don't have, like, are paralyzed and you want to be able to walk, like, maybe on a physical aspect, that would be something that would become impossible. When it comes to love, I have found that anything that you say to yourself that it can't happen because, right? So these are where the lies come in. So
I want to clarify something just within my audience. Sure. What she's talking about is finding the person you want. She's not talking about changing the person you have into the person.
Oh, no. Yeah. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, that's just a really important, knowing my listeners. It's like, great. Can I change? You just tell me how to change him. I'll do anything. Right. And that's just
you're finding love, or you're getting to the point where you are giving out and receiving love. And with that, you have to be able to ask the questions, the hard questions of, is that going to happen here? Right? So like it might involve you walking away from a situation that you're in, or if you're dating, having that wisdom, like you were saying, and that self-reflection to be like, no, I'm not going to go any further in this. So it's not like every guy out there can be formed into the right person or a person who's going to love you. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking more to even people who've come out of toxic relationships and have cut themselves off from the possibility of finding someone, or believe that they're broken enough that they can't. And I'm saying that is just not true. That's a lie.
Or that there are no good guys out there.
Yes, so that's one of the lies, right?
Oh,
So that falls in the category of the lies. So when you tell yourself, I can't find someone because all guys are liars, all men are liars, all men suck, right? When you're making that not gross, like ew, but like that largely,
right.
You're kind of casting
overgeneralization.
Yeah.
And it's really just projecting such a silly net. I mean, okay, 50% of the world is horrible.
Right. But it's keeping you protected, right? So the goal of it is the intention of your brain is to make sure you don't get hurt, but then you also don't get love. So basically one of the lies that Jen and I, so Jen's my business partner, and the two of us the podcast together, and we created this program. So in the very beginning, we went through like the top 10 lies that women tell themselves, and we kind of really dig in there and rip them apart one by one. But the reality of it is that if your brain is telling you that it's impossible to find love because whatever you fill in that blanket with afterwards, it should be a red flag that you're saying that. So it's impossible to find love because I'm too old. It's impossible to find love because I have kids and no good guy is going to come around and want to take care of my kids. It's impossible to find love because every guy I see out there is divorced, which means he's broken. It's impossible to find love because if I find a guy who's older and he's not married, there must be something wrong with him. You see, like there are all these stories that we tell ourselves, and really at the end of the day, all your brain is saying is stay safe where you are. Right? And what really happens, right? So of course the intentions of that part of our brain is to keep us safe, which is really kind of nice. But we don't live unless we try and do things that are outside of our comfort zone and help us grow.
Well, Rapunzel was safe in her castle. She still wanted out. Yes, exactly.
So it's realizing that you're boxing yourself into the castle, right? And that might be, I always tell to my clients with anxiety, that your anxiety wants you to be in a corner with a blanket over your head and get fed 3 meals a day, because then you will be safe, right? That's you being safe, but that's not living. That's certainly not creating the life that you want for yourself. Sometimes they're like, oh, that sounds really good. I'm like, it will sound really good for a little bit, right?
You have an anxiety thinking about that.
It does. It sounds peaceful. There are days where I want like to be in bed and someone just give me food, right? For a little bit of time. But if your whole life was just that, you didn't live. Right. And you certainly didn't get what you wanted out of it.
Well, and you didn't leave a legacy. You didn't show your children what it was like to be well loved. You didn't earn anyone's respect. You didn't earn, I mean, these pieces of like, because I had a situation and I heard someone talking about my sister and they said, oh, she's the good girl. She's the good sister. And I was like, what? How does she get to be the good one? You know? And my sister is very good. And she like just texts me something in the middle of these things. She goes, I helped your daughter with her homework and finished her homework. I mean, this is not a slam on my sister. I love and admire her. But it was when I heard someone said that, which it probably insulted her too. When I heard someone say that, I was just like, and the reality is my life blew up a few years ago, right? It blew up it burned to the ground and I had to put it back together. And, you know, I could have absolutely been the person in the blanket. And maybe then people would have thought I was a good girl because then I didn't rebuild. I just, okay, well, it's over now. And, you know, I'll just be who everyone wants me to be or whatever else that may be. And again, this is not an insult to my sister. This has nothing to do with the conversation with my sister, but I had to say, okay, maybe I won't be the good girl anymore, but I can be the great girl. I can leave a legacy. I can find love. I can lead by example. I can be with people in their hard things. I can, you know, learn how to rebuild when life crashes down. And that was kind of what got me through that. When I think about giving up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that anxiety in the blanket, I think, is that the legacy I'm going to leave? When I get to my funeral, are there going to be 3 people there that go, well, you know, she didn't leave her house that often. Like what?
Right. I haven't seen her.
Yeah. I'm sure her cats will miss her. You know, not insulting anybody with cats, but is that really the legacy you're going to leave? Is that how your children are going to remember you? What are they going to put in your obituary?
So 2 things came up in my mind when you said that. So the first one, and I might lose the second one because it's just how my brain works now. But the first one is, I am so mad that somebody categorized your sister as like, I'm mad for your sister too. Like what?
That's what I was saying. Yeah. I don't want to like slam my sister in this because she would have been mad too. Yeah.
What's the criteria of being a good girl? Like, what does that even mean? And how, and ew, girl, like you're not girls, you're women. And every part of me just went like, I don't know who this person is, but they need to grow. Because this is just not.
It was actually 2 people that said it. And so the first one I didn't get that mad about. And the second one I was kind of like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
But it's okay. You know, whatever.
And then I'm like, okay, we're in alignment because I'm not the good girl either. Like forget that,
right.
You know? I don't stand in line or do what I'm told to make other people feel comfortable. That's not what I'm here for either. So yeah, I think that
my sister doesn't either. That's just was so funny. I was like, I'm sure she was just as disturbed about the comment as I was. Right. Yeah.
And this is where we have to be careful, right? People say, again, when we're working with these women who are like, you know, even now, I don't know when this will play, but we're coming into holiday season. Like this is when you go home to your family.
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
And they're like, have you found a guy yet? You know, or like they say stupid things that again forces us into like, oh, so I'm supposed to be with a guy now. So let me make that happen really fast. So I appease everybody else so I can give them the answer that they want. But the truth is that that's dangerous. And these people don't know what they're talking about. And it's because they don't know what else to say to us. So
yeah. And when you come at it from a place of grace, you know, am I mad at the people who said that to my sister or about me? No, they were just trying to say something and they probably didn't mean it, or maybe they did and I don't care, right? Like either way, like whatever.
Wherever they're coming from, it's just inaccurate. And it's and again, being kind of proud that it's like not the good girl. I'm not. That means I'm doing something right, you know. And not to say your sister's doing something wrong, but
This is the comment.
You're making waves. Do it.
Yeah.
Go loud and proud. Like that's how 100%. So there are a lot of different lies that we get that women that we work with, and that's how we came up with the top 10. A big one, I think, is also the fear of putting the time in to find somebody and coming up without anyone.
Which also cannot be avoided. Like to some extent, right? You know, I also, that's a great point to bring up, you know, the vulnerability. How do I date without being vulnerable, without ever wasting time, without ever having to differentiate who is good for me and who isn't? Like that doesn't exist.
Right. It could if you pick the first person who comes along, but like statistically, it's not going to be the right person.
Sure. Yeah. You could never work and never have anything. You could let your children starve. You could run your car into a tree because you drank so much alcohol and didn't take precautions, right? Like there's also all kinds of things you could do, but is it going to get you the result you want?
No. It's kind of, I talk about like, it's kind of like if you took a bunch of careers and threw them in a bag and just picked one out randomly and then was signed up to have that career for the rest of your life. Like that's kind of what we do. I hear so many times from women that they just know, they just have this instinct or feeling. And I'm like, that is such BS. Like that is just, you don't know. You don't know the same way that you don't know if a girl or a woman walks in the room, you can't possibly know whether or not you guys are going to be best friends. You can't know that. And you wouldn't commit to being her best friend for the rest of your life the second she walks into the room. You might have like good vibes, but you would take your time and kind of see whether or not it actually was that. And we can do that because we have ease when it comes to friends.
Yeah.
But with this pressure of like, we got to find someone and have this, it's the scarcity mindset of like, I don't have time to investigate and see whether or not I really like this and whether or not it's really the commitment I want to make, the same way that we do with careers and friendships and that kind of thing.
You spend 4 years in college figuring out what career, and then most of us don't even work in the career. I was a classical piano performance major, right? It's like, and I spent hours practicing piano with no regrets.
Right.
With no regrets, and then when it comes to a guy, it's like, oh, this is, this is going to be my last date of the year. So then you put extra pressure for that to be the date.
Mm-hmm.
And it is just not working. And I mean, I have a lot of grace and space, in this situation. I don't want it to appear like too much like we're on our high horses. Like we understand that it's difficult and it's scary. And, you don't want to waste time. You feel like you've already wasted time. It's time away from your kids maybe, or it's time away if you've been divorced, it's time away from your career. It's just kind of like, almost as if somebody was coming and they were like, I really want to get healthy, or a doctor, right? And it's like, I'm about to have a heart attack. And it's like, well, how do I change my lifestyle and not get cancer and not have a heart attack? But, I don't want to eat healthy or exercise, or give up drinking or recreational drugs or whatever. But I really like to be healthy. Like, is there a way that you can like do that for me? And it's just like, well, no.
But there's also the crash diet mentality. So what we show, most of the women that we work with are very like, they've created a life, like they're powerful women. If you get to that point, and you've sat with yourself long enough and you've built this career, you have, say you are divorced and you have children or whatever it is, like say you have that going on and you have a very full life. This is also, if you think like I can either have my life or date, that's a lie, right? Yeah. So it's about working in the same way. If you were like, I want to get healthier, if you have a really intense career and children, going to the gym for 3 hours is not going to happen, right? And it's just not a realistic plan. So it's coming up with a plan that actually fits into your life.
Yeah. And a plan that you don't put like the end of the world pressure on.
Yes. And Jen and I really, really enforce the idea that you need to keep all aspects of your life intact when you're dating, because if you put those things aside and give too much to this person that you're dating, then they expect that to keep happening. And you lose yourself, you lose what makes you, pieces of you that make you super awesome. And that's why you have people who like come out of relationships, and that's another lie. Like every time I'm in a relationship, I lose myself, and then I have to re-find myself when I come out of a relationship. That's because you've given up pieces of yourself, right? So it's so important, especially when you're talking to having your guard up or detecting whether or not it's toxic. You should be giving up none of yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Do you give less time? Like instead of going every weekend to the museum that you like to walk through, like maybe it's once a month or twice a month. Maybe it's that, but like
a balance.
Right.
It's okay to find balance. It's not okay for any time that dating has to become your hobby or the guy has to become your hobby. You're not in a place to date. Period.
Yeah. You shouldn't be giving up other pieces. You should be loving all the things about him, and he should be loving all the things about you. It's not about, we always joke like Jerry Maguire, like you complete me.
You complete me. Yes. Yeah.
So I talk about how I love to dance. I love to go out dancing. I love dancing around my house, whatever. I love it. My husband is, you could see it on his face, so uncomfortable at a wedding or wherever we are. Like, it's just, it takes the joy from me
Yeah.
when I feel like he has to.
Yeah.
So I go out with my girlfriends and I go dancing. Like,
yes.
And I didn't give that up for him. I'm just kind of like, I don't want to go with you because you hate it. And I can see that you hate it. And I still want this piece of me. So he doesn't need to love all the exact same things that I love, but I need to not give up the things I love to be with him. And the same thing, there are things that he loves that I'm like, you go find your guys and like go and do that, or go with the kids, but I'm good to not go.
Well, yeah, my husband's like golfing and he's like, oh, you want to ride the cart? No. No. I mean,
but you didn't say like you can't golf because I don't like.
Oh my gosh, I would never say you can't go, and nor would I have. It would have been crazy of me to think in the dating process, well, I don't like to golf, and he doesn't play piano, so we're not meant to be.
Right? Exactly.
Like no. Oh my gosh, Amy, thank you so much. Thanks for. So tell us. You talked about your program, but give us some info on your Instagram and website.
So it's at Successful Single Female on Insta, and then it's. Our podcast is Successful, Single, and Not Willing to Settle. And we're on iTunes and a bunch of other places. And our website is www.successfulsinglefemale.com. And all of our programs and options, you can find them there. But you can always DM us on Instagram. We get back to everyone who messages us. So if you want to, contact us through there, we'd be happy to chat.
Awesome, Amy. Thank you so much for giving us some tips and tricks to bounce back better so we can become toxic person proof.
Thank you. Have a great day.